I can't let my employees hear what I need to tell you. They cannot know that I failed. I failed. I failed you. I'm so sorry. Failed you, the listener. 2.5 years ago, I did an episode and promised that I would give you play by play action of our franchise as it grew. We had 15 to 17 locations at that time, and now we have 115. And I have failed to keep you updated on the whole process. So today I want to share a little bit about our journey and how far we've come. And then in future episodes, I'm going to be able to share a lot of different things about the questions that you've asked, questions such as transitioning a brand from your brand to Augusta brand and what all that entails, and all kinds of questions that I've heard from people asking about the franchise, just to answer those questions briefly for you in several episodes. But back when I talked to you before, I had talked about Mike Andes being the owner of Augusta Lawn Care Services and a little bit of his background and then how we got started in the franchise. So, moving up today, as you can imagine, there has been a ton that's happened in the last 2.5 years. So, we were at a tiny place in Blaine, Washington, where we used to run crews out of for our landscaping. Then we moved to Bellingham, Washington, which was about 30 minutes away from there, and our company continued to grow. The reason we wanted to franchise is because you see the men out, ladies too, sorry, working out in the field, working in people's lawns on their properties, and they don't look very professional. And they are not wearing shirts, they're chewing, they're spitting, they're smoking, they're leaving cigarette butts everywhere, and some of them feel really dumb, and they feel like that's all they can do is mow lawns. And spoken from someone that says stupid people mow lawns. We're changing that, and we are changing the professionalism in the landscape industry. That is our goal. And so with that in mind, we had a real heart for those guys that were working in the field that didn't act very confident, and why should they? And also owners that worked in the field and they were incredible at the work, just like these other guys, incredible at the work, but they had no clue how to run a business. And Mike had been giving free content for years, business advice to all service industries, all businesses in general. But for the landscape industry, which is what his skills were in, he had already built the landscape business course. And that course, if you haven't heard of it, I'll put it in the links below so that you can check it out. But it is how to get your business to a certain amount of money step by step in 3 years. So from when to hire an employee, when to get a truck, when to get your second employee, when to get your second truck, and all the details in between. And he continuously adds content to that course that we created about 3 years ago. And we still keep adding more to that, maybe 4 years ago. It's been a minute. And then since then, he's created a course called NBA for Entrepreneurs, which is a little more in the weeds depth, but you would really enjoy that. And so I'll put the links for all of that below. But we would see these guys and we would think he is putting out tons of free content. We have a lot of people listening, but they don't actually implement it. And the things that we do, we know will work. They're tried and tested. And so he thought, well, if I had systems in place and would have a way to force someone to do them, they would see that they were successful. So we decided to franchise, and that in itself entailed a lot, which I put on a previous episode. But when we franchised, it actually buys someone time, because if they're a little business owner and they're struggling along and they can't make ends meet and they can't figure stuff out, we already have the systems in place. We're going to get their website up to the top of the search list and multiple other things that we already provide for them, which I will also share in other episodes. We already have that in place for them. So when they join, all they have to do is follow the systems to be successful. So that is why we franchised. We also had something a little unusual, which is unusual in the franchise industry, is that we wanted to have a flat rate. So let's say you wanted to make $50,000 or $5 million. Usually you have to give a percentage of that to the franchisor. Well, what happens after 10 years? is the franchisee does learn all the systems and they get really good at it. And they start to get resentful of the franchisor because they're like, hey, I'm so good at everything. I don't really need them. And I'm still paying them a percentage of everything I make. And now I'm at $50 million and I'm still giving them this massive percentage. We wanted to be able to charge a flat rate. And no matter how big a company got, they would always still pay that flat rate. And the attorneys thought we were out of our minds. But Mike said, I won't do a franchise until I know that we can do something like that. So that is what we implemented, and that's what we've been doing for the last several years. And I'll share more about that in future episodes as well, the cost to get in and what is provided and all that we can give. So my role has changed. At the beginning, when we were in Blaine, Washington, I loaded product into trucks and dump trucks and helped the crew in that way. And I also did all the estimates, all the phone calls, absolutely everything an office manager does. And Mike and I did it ourselves. And we had one helper. And then it grew from there till we got to the other shop in Bellingham. We had 12 trucks, 3 trailers. We grew rather large and we grew that to $1.5 million. And there's a whole system in that too. When you want to open a second location or when you systematize everything, really what is the growth for that company before you branch out and do something else, or when you decide to just stay steady with the growth that you have or to continue to grow the one location. So as we grew, we wanted to take young guys that were in the field and we would look amongst them to who had leadership qualities. So I had hired Lee Park, and many of you know him from meeting him at Summit and things now. And Lee became our he became our estimator. So he took Mike's role as that. So Mike could stop doing estimating and work more on the business instead of in the business. And then I trained Lee to be in as the manager, the office manager. And then which I'll explain more in other episodes, I just want to give you an update of where we've been and what we've been doing. Then I moved over to the command center. So Lonnie, who you've also met, was at our command center. And the command center is a place where we answer all the calls for the franchisees and we do everything an office manager would do for them for all the locations. So of course that started with one and grew from there. And as a business scales, all the things within the business change rapidly, because if there's rapid growth, there's a lot of shifting and reorganizing that has to take place as you hire more people. So then it was Lonnie and and Lonnie really put systems in place to get the command center started. And then she worked a lot with Mike on the P4P system, putting that together before we were able to build the software. But everything in the beginning was her and Mike, taking Mike's vision for it and putting it in Excel documents, and then from there creating the software. And she continues to do that now. She does coaching calls, and you would love to talk to her and learn more about P4P on a call with her. And you can feel free to do that free of charge. And I will also put links for that below. But I am reading text as they come in from my team. They just flow onto the screen. And so they're a bit distracting, but that's how it rolls around here. It's never going to stop. It's never going to slow down. And that's what we love about Augusta. So now, all this time later, we have moved from where we were in Bellingham and come all the way back to Blaine because we are building a headquarters, and we had to wait for one permit for almost a year. And now that we got that permit, now we're going to break ground and get started. So we actually had our command center in a different place than the crew was at in Bellingham. We were in an office complex in Ferndale, Washington, which is right in between. So Blaine is up by the Canadian border, and then Ferndale, and then Bellingham. So the crew is still in Bellingham now. We're still running full crews there. As we've seen talent in the field, we've moved them up into estimator, then to office managers. And so now with a company that big, you do need in-house office help, but Command also does a lot of their support. So once you're getting up to almost 2 million, you do need somebody there routing, dispatching, and running the show on that end, and then Command can still take their phone calls and everything. So we've been growing Command Center. When you start a company, It's not like we have a manual. So it's like Amazon and Google, when they started, they were working day and night. They would develop a system, they would try it. And if you read Amazon Unbound or some of those other books about those companies, you will see all the things they tried, and some are public that you know about, they on the news and things, and you get to hear behind stories of how they tried them and why. And that is what's so cool about Augusta, is I'm going to be able to share this over time, what I tried, what failed. I never really look at it as failure though, because it was just, you can do the best you can and be prepared as you can be, and things can still go awry, but you had no idea that that was going to happen. And so that's how you pivot and learn and change and make changes to be better in the future as you grow. So last year, well, before that, we had call agents that we hired, and just putting all the systems in place. When you're at the groundbreaking part of building something big, it is crazy when all those calls come in and you're not really prepared and you haven't thought of every single scenario to even put together a system for it. And so the first spring rush was pretty rocky, and we were 24/7 on. And so last year was our second full season, and we had virtual staff as well as in house staff. And I would say we ended up with about 22, something like that. And because it was so overwhelming and the calls were coming in, I'd have 450 estimates waiting to be done. And that's waiting to be done plus more. We're just pouring in. With the system that we had in place, we grew 150% last year. So we prepared, but there was no way we could have any idea that it was going to be that insane. And so I did have some people quit right in the middle of it because they couldn't handle the stress of it all. And I understand that and take full responsibility. And I was able to learn from that and for this upcoming season and make things a little bit different. And I'll share more about the training plan and how we put things together, the interview process in upcoming videos. But now I'm in hiring and preparing for this next season. No virtuals except a couple that I have asked to stay to do some testing for the next season. And we will do virtual to see how much they can manage and get our systems really tightened up the way we'd like them to be, and then next year see about adding some more virtuals. But for this year, I brought everything back in-house. We just hired 7 more call agents, and they're all in this room around me working. So we had to move from our place in Ferndale because we're waiting to build the headquarters. So we've just moved here 3 weeks ago, and immediately we've been hiring, and we've hired these 7 new people. So now everyone is in the command center together. So we have the media team, the CPA, our bookkeeper, Lady Lisa, that many of you have met with Lawn Care Bookkeeper. She is here quite often, and many things that you've experienced and purchased and known from our media team also happens here, as well as all the P for P calculations for every single one of our franchisees. And I'm looking to have around 50 people here. So the agents I had before were around 20. I'm hiring 7 more that I hired 2 days ago that started. I have 14 in the wings to start in a couple weeks, February 13th. And I should note that the date today for documentation of all of this is February 1st, 2023. So on February 13th, in another week and a half, I'm going to have at least another 14. So my plan is to hire 22, and people don't always work out. Some people flake out and don't even show up the first day. Other people, we have very open communication that if things don't work out after a week or two, we assess together. And if it's just not something they can get the hang of, or if they feel like they don't fit with our team, or if we feel that way on any of those levels, then we just part ways and everything is good on good terms. And I'll explain why you want to do that in the beginning and the cost that it is to train people. You definitely don't want to be doing all of that and then the person not stick around. So I will keep you documented as we go along, but we've come so far. We've grown. So Augusta is really like the umbrella. And then underneath that, we have the lawn care bookkeeper, and we have all the media things that we do, the outlet. We have the online business, landscape business course. We have the entrepreneur for the NBA for entrepreneurs, and multiple other things. So you can get your taxes taken care of. You can get your bookkeeping done, and altogether it's so wonderful to to know these people personally when you come for summit. By the way, we're going to be in Louisville, Kentucky in October this year for the summit. So if any of you are going to the expo, the equipment expo, this will be right before. So we'd love to have you sign up and meet us there. But so many of you have met us at summit, and we've gotten to know each other on a personal basis, and you know all of us by name. And I hope that you can come in October, because we certainly would love to meet you in person. And before that, I'd love to give you some great content here and help you in your business, telling my side of it. I'm the operations manager over all of Augusta Nation. And so I have quite a bit of experience, and I love, love, love learning. And I'm excited about this season ahead, and we'll keep you posted as we go along in this season. It's going to be a very busy time in the next few weeks getting everybody trained up. It's right around March 1st. It's like the floodgates open and everything comes rushing in. Most companies start mowing the first week of March, but there are some, Florida, Georgia, some of those southern states, that mow all year around. And so they've all stayed kind of busy. And bye, Lee. and and then there's those of us who in the Northwest do what's called winter services, which I'll share about later. And we're all going to be starting to mow on the 1st, so it gets really busy really fast. And so we're trying to get everyone trained up before that time. So I'll let you know how it goes, and all the failures and mistakes we make and all that, which is so awesome, because that's how we get better and that's how we change and grow. So we're looking forward to that challenge. Hope you have an amazing day.